Height creates space. It makes you harder to guard Los Angeles. 1967. A private training space tucked away from the noise of the city. Two figures stand across from each other. One a legend in the making, the other already towering over the sport he dominates. Bruce Lee. 5 feet 7 inches. Compact. Precise. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. 7 feet 2 inches. Long. Imposing. And in 7 seconds, one of them is about to learn that what looks like an advantage on paper doesn't always hold up in reality. This isn't a story about winning or losing. It's a story about assumptions, and what happens when mastery rewrites the rules you thought were absolute. The space is simple. Wooden floors. High ceilings. Mirrors along one wall reflecting every movement, every shift in weight. There's no audience. No cameras. No reason to perform. Just two men, training. Learning. Exploring the edges of what their bodies can do. Bruce moves across the floor with quiet intensity. His steps are measured, deliberate. He's not practicing flashy techniques. He's studying distance. Timing. The invisible mathematics of combat. He shifts his weight. Adjusts his stance. Takes a step forward, then back. Not randomly. Testing. Calculating. Understanding the space between where he is and where he needs to be. Kareem watches from the side, towel draped over his shoulders. He's here because he asked to be. Bruce Lee isn't just teaching him martial arts. He's teaching him how to move, how to think, how to see beyond the obvious. But Kareem is also a student of basketball. A game where height matters. Where reach is leverage. Where being taller than your opponent is often the difference between winning and losing. And right now, watching Bruce work, he's thinking about distance. Kareem steps onto the floor, stretching his arms out. From fingertip to fingertip, his wingspan is massive. Over 7 feet. Nearly impossible to get past without walking into his range. He looks at Bruce, who stands a full 19 inches shorter. Kareem speaks, his voice calm but confident. Reach beats speed. It's not a challenge. It's an observation. A principle he's learned on the court, where longer arms mean more control, more defense, more ability to dictate the pace. He continues, explaining his reasoning. If two people are equally fast, the one with longer reach wins. They can strike first. They can keep distance. They don't have to commit as deeply to land a hit. Simple logic. Proven logic. Bruce stops moving. He listens. His expression is neutral, not disagreeing, not dismissing. Just present. Kareem extends his arm fully, demonstrating the reach. By the time you get close enough to hit me, I've already hit you. It makes sense. On paper, it's hard to argue. But Bruce knows something Kareem hasn't yet experienced. Bruce doesn't lecture. He doesn't explain why Kareem's logic is incomplete. He simply adjusts his stance. Hold your position, Bruce says quietly. Don't move unless you think you need to. Kareem nods. He plants his feet, extends his arm slightly, and waits. He's ready. His reach is his shield. His advantage. The thing that's worked for him his entire athletic life. Bruce stands just outside that reach. Far enough that Kareem's arm can't touch him. Close enough that the distance between them feels charged. The room goes still. Bruce moves. Not with a burst of speed. Not with a leap or a lunge. Just a shift. A step. A change in angle. And suddenly, he's inside Kareem's reach. Not by powering through. Not by moving faster than Kareem can react. By timing. Bruce doesn't move in a straight line. He moves at an angle that makes Kareem's reach irrelevant. The long arm that seemed like such an advantage is now just mass. Too extended to retract in time, too committed to adjust. Bruce closes the distance effortlessly, his movement so clean it looks like he's sliding across the floor. He stops just inside Kareem's guard. No strike. No impact. Just presence. Kareem's arm is still extended, but it's behind Bruce now. Out of position. Useless. And then Bruce moves again, exiting just as smoothly as he entered, returning to the original distance before Kareem can even process what happened. 7 seconds. Maybe less. Kareem stands there, arm still half raised, realizing that the reach he trusted didn't help him at all. Bruce returns to his neutral stance, calm as ever. Kareem lowers his arm slowly. His expression has shifted, not embarrassed, but deeply thoughtful. He just experienced something his body couldn't explain. The logic he relied on didn't fail because it was wrong. It failed because it was incomplete. Reach does matter, but only if the person you're facing moves the way you expect them to. Bruce didn't try to outreach him. He didn't try to be faster in a straight line. He simply understood that distance isn't fixed, it's a relationship. And relationships can be changed. By moving at an angle, Bruce turned Kareem's advantage into a liability. The longer the arm, the more time it takes to retract. The taller the body, the more commitment required to adjust. Kareem nods, slowly. Not in defeat. In understanding. What happened in those 7 seconds wasn't about proving Kareem wrong. It was about showing him a dimension he hadn't yet seen. Reach is real. It's an advantage. But it's not absolute. Speed is real. It's useful. But it's not the answer either. What Bruce demonstrated was something deeper. Timing. Timing isn't about moving fast. It's about moving at the right moment, in the right direction, with the right intention. It's about understanding that every advantage has a gap, and mastery is knowing how to find that gap before your opponent even realizes it exists. Kareem's reach was formidable. But it assumed Bruce would move in a straight line. It assumed predictability. And Bruce Lee built his entire philosophy on being unpredictable, not through chaos, but through precision. If you've ever relied on one advantage and realized it wasn't enough, share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Bruce doesn't explain what he just did. He doesn't break down the geometry, the footwork, the angle of entry. He simply returns to his training, moving through the same drills he was practicing before. Kareem watches, but now he's seeing something different. He's not just watching techniques. He's watching principles. The way Bruce shifts his weight before moving his feet. The way he keeps his center low, ready to change direction instantly. The way every motion has a purpose, not for show, not for style, but for effectiveness. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wasn't just a casual student. He sought Bruce out specifically, not to learn how to fight, but to learn how to move with intention. Basketball had made him dominant. His height, his skill, his intelligence on the court, all of it combined to make him nearly unstoppable. But he knew something was missing. He could see it in Bruce's movement. The efficiency. The way nothing was wasted. The way every action seemed to flow from a deeper understanding of the body and space. Kareem wanted that. Not for the ring. For life. And Bruce saw in Kareem someone willing to unlearn in order to grow. That willingness is rare. Most people at the top of their field stop questioning their methods. They rely on what's worked. They defend their advantages. But Kareem was different. He knew that mastery in one area doesn't mean mastery in all areas. And today, he was learning that firsthand. In basketball, reach is everything. Longer arms mean better defense. More rebounds. Greater ability to block shots and intercept passes. Harder to stop, harder to ignore. Kareem had spent his entire career using that advantage. And it worked. But martial arts operate on different principles. In basketball, you can't change the angle of the court. The boundaries are fixed. The game flows in predictable patterns. In combat, real or theoretical, there are no boundaries. No fixed lanes. No rules about where you can or can't move. That freedom changes everything. Reach becomes less relevant when your opponent can approach from any angle. Height becomes less useful when timing can neutralize distance. Bruce wasn't better than Kareem at basketball. But in this space, in this context, the rules Kareem relied on didn't apply the same way. And that was the lesson. Bruce Lee didn't believe in relying on advantages. He believed in eliminating disadvantages. To him, if you built your entire approach around being taller, faster, or stronger, you'd be vulnerable the moment you faced someone who neutralized that advantage. True mastery wasn't about maximizing your strengths. It was about removing your dependencies. If your technique only works because you're bigger, what happens when you face someone just as big? If your strategy only works because you're faster, what happens when you face someone just as fast? Bruce's philosophy was simple. Become complete. Don't rely on one thing. Understand all things. That's why he studied every style, every philosophy, every approach. Not to copy them, but to understand their limitations and transcend them. Or if this idea resonates with you, that true strength isn't about one advantage, take a second and hit that like button. After the demonstration, Kareem doesn't defend his original statement. He doesn't say, well, in basketball it's different. He simply asks, show me again. And that's the mark of a true student. Bruce repeats the movement. Slower this time. Breaking it down so Kareem can see the mechanics. The angle of entry. The weight shift. The way the body creates momentum without telegraphing intention. Kareem watches closely. His eyes track every detail. He tries it himself. His first attempt is clumsy. His body isn't used to moving this way. Basketball trained him for vertical explosiveness and lateral quickness, but this kind of angular precision is new. Bruce corrects him gently. Don't think about reaching me. Think about occupying the space I'm not defending. Kareem tries again. Better this time. Not perfect, but better. And Bruce nods. Not with praise. With recognition. Because growth isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing to be wrong, and then doing something about it. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar would train with Bruce Lee for years. And in that time, he would learn far more than techniques. He would learn how to think differently about his own body. About space. About strategy. On the basketball court, those lessons would show up in subtle ways. The way he positioned himself on defense, not just using height, but using angles. The way he moved without the ball, understanding timing, not just speed. The way he approached challenges, not relying on one tool, but adapting to what the moment required. Years later, in interviews, Kareem would speak about Bruce with deep respect. Not just as a martial artist, but as a philosopher. A thinker. Someone who understood that the body and mind are inseparable. He would say that training with Bruce taught him more than how to move, it taught him how to see. And that shift in perspective made him not just a better athlete, but a more complete person. What Bruce demonstrated that day wasn't unique to martial arts. It's a principle that applies everywhere. In business, having more resources doesn't guarantee success if your timing is wrong. In relationships, being right doesn't matter if you speak at the wrong moment. In life, advantages are temporary, but understanding is permanent. Kareem had reach. That was real. But reach without timing is just potential waiting to be bypassed. Bruce had timing. And timing, when perfected, makes every other variable secondary. That's why he could face opponents bigger, stronger, more aggressive, and still find the opening. Not because he was superhuman, but because he understood something most people overlook. The game isn't won by the person with the best tools. It's won by the person who knows when and how to use them. The people who trained with Bruce didn't just learn martial arts. They learned how to question assumptions. Kareem walked into that gym believing reach was an unbeatable advantage. He walked out understanding that every advantage has conditions. And that understanding changed how he approached everything. It made him more adaptable, more thoughtful, more willing to explore what he didn't know instead of defending what he did. That mindset, the willingness to be proven wrong and learn from it, is what separates good from great. What made that moment powerful wasn't just what Bruce showed. It was what Kareem was willing to receive. He could have dismissed it. That's fine for martial arts, but basketball is different. He could have defended his logic. Reach still matters in most situations. He could have walked away protecting his ego. But he didn't. He stayed. He listened. He tried. He learned. And that humility, the willingness to be a student even when you're already a master in your own field, is what allowed him to grow. You don't need to be 7 feet 2 inches to understand this lesson. You don't need to train with Bruce Lee to recognize when you're relying too heavily on one advantage. This story isn't just about reach and timing. It's about every time you assumed something would protect you, and it didn't. It's about every time you thought one skill was enough, and you were proven wrong. It's about the moment you realized that what works in one context doesn't automatically work in another. What advantage are you relying on right now? Your experience? Your education? Your connections? Your talent? And what would happen if someone showed you, in 7 seconds, that it wasn't enough? Would you defend it? Or would you adjust? Most people defend. Because admitting your advantage has limits feels like losing. But Kareem understood something crucial. The only way to truly grow is to stop protecting what you think you know, and start exploring what you don't. Bruce Lee's philosophy wasn't about taking away Kareem's reach. It was about showing him that reach alone wasn't mastery. Mastery is understanding all the variables, and knowing which one matters most in each moment. Kareem had the tools. Bruce showed him how to see the whole picture. And that's what separates competence from mastery. Competence relies on strengths. Mastery understands context. That training session ended quietly. No dramatic conclusion. No profound speech. No audience to witness it. Just 2 men, one teaching, one learning, and a moment that would stay with both of them forever. Bruce returned to his drills. Kareem absorbed what he'd experienced. And the lesson lived on. Not because it was recorded. Not because it was shared. But because it was real. And real lessons don't need validation. They just are. If you're the kind of person who questions your own assumptions, who values growth over being right, who understands that every advantage has limits, then you belong here. This channel isn't for people who want to be told they're already perfect. It's for people who know that mastery is a process, not a destination. Subscribe if that's who you are. Not because I asked, but because these stories reflect the way you see the world. And you know there's always more to learn. Reach beats speed. Until it doesn't. And the moment you understand why, everything changes.